What's up? We're back. I know, I know. Sorry. I have been gone for quite a while. So many things have been happening, so busy. Things change every single day, which is very funny because that's what this welcome back episode is about. So, I titled it That Didn't Age Well because it goes back to, and I've told the story multiple times, of an experience I had with a sales manager that I used to have. Really awesome guy. He was our regional manager, so he was a manager of managers. And we used to get into these heated debates because, I mean, in a friendly way. We're still friends to this day, so it's not like, not nothing crazy. But we used to get into these debates because at the time I worked under him, I wasn't new in the beer industry. I was relatively seasoned, but he at that point was like a 20-year vet into the beer industry, 25 years, something like that. And we were having this debate. I don't remember what we were doing. Oddly enough, I think we were like putting something on a cooler. I think we were putting like they used to have these handles that had advertising on the handle, and we were like screwing it onto the handle of a convenience store cooler so that when you reach to grab a beer and you saw the handle, ideally the image on the handle would make the customer say, okay, cool, I'm gonna buy that beer, right? And so we were putting them on there, and I was like, he was doing it in this like super difficult way because you have to reach your hand on the inside of the handle and like get a screw and then screw it in, right? But there's not enough room to get a screwdriver or anything to do it. So he was doing it in this really difficult way. And I was like, there's a better way to do that. There's a simple way to do it. And I think what I did was I got a socket wrench. And I think I reached that in there, and then I did something crazy. And he made this statement about this very simplistic thing I was doing, and he said, it's a problem. It's a problem with you young guys. You're always trying to be innovative and find something new. Let me tell you something. I've been in this industry a long time, and the beer business never changes. It's the same. You don't need to add anything new. You don't need to change anything. You just need to go with the program and do things the way they've always been done. And your brands and your sales goals, all that stuff will be achieved and met. And I remember telling him right there, which again, we're arguing about a socket wrench versus like something else, right? But I said, that's about the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And that's where this episode comes from, because it wasn't dumb to say. Well, it was dumb to say. Everything changes. There's not an industry that exists that hasn't evolved and changed. Even the oldest industry. They don't do prostitution the same way anymore, right? So everything changes. There's always evolving. So a great example of that is with the beverage industry. What did the pandemic do to us? It changed the way we moved around. It changed our purchasing habits. It changed the way we did things, how we connect. I remember there was a big saying back in the day when I was a supplier rep, and I had thousands of accounts, and some of the accounts would always say, well, I do business with the reps that spend money in my establishment. That was a big thing. You got to spend money in their establishment, and it's probably still a pretty good thing, right? But ultimately, the way things have shifted, the foot traffic from account to account, it's still necessary. It's still going to happen. But where is the real breadbasket coming from for suppliers? It's from getting allotted into multiple locations. It's getting facings in a grocery store. It's growing the shelf in the grocery store. It's growing the amount of tap handles across a specific region versus like getting tap handles here and there. Now, if you are a small brewery or winery or distillery, I'm not going to go against one of my older videos. You got to own your block, right? You want to be 6 blocks north, 6 blocks south. You want to own all of that. So yeah, then you are hitting door to door. But for the big distributors and the people that we're talking about that have like a national presence, um, that whole knocking on doors is great, but we're finding new and innovative ways of doing that through things like e-commerce. So through e-commerce channels, those people normally that you'd be knocking on their doors, well, they're logging in and they're being advertised to, and then they're ordering your brands through that way. So the way in which we sell has changed. The B2B marketplace is wide open. Um, and that was all changed with the pandemic. Look at the change from the market share with Anheuser-Busch. Now, Anheuser-Busch market shares have been on a steady decline, and this whole thing with them is probably a great video, so I'm going to save some of this for another time. But AB's market share is kind of been on somewhat of a decline. I know there's some factors that, you know, I'll talk about later on that. But why is that? Number one, they've had such a huge share of it. They've had such a huge presence for so long. Of course, who's going to get eaten up? The biggest fish, right? The other thing is that there is way more options. What did I tell y'all about? I think I told you guys something about drug dealers. Like, I don't have the best product, I have the best option. If you have more options from what you had back in the day, of course, people are now walking into the grocery stores and they're seeing other options besides Bud Light, which is craft beers right out their backyard, local imports. But also, there's more categories now. There's more different things now. There's more different categories. There's more different products. People are drinking less beer. People are drinking things that taste like beer but are not beer, non-alcoholics. There's such a wide variety that has changed the game. And you know, someone like Modelo, who has had increased market share. Well, one thing that hasn't changed when when I got into the beer business almost 20 years ago, their key demographic were immigrants and immigrant establishments, right? So Mexican restaurants, and in Texas, we're talking about Mexican restaurants and people immigrating from Mexico. It was a well-known established name. People loved it. It's a good product. So they purchased it and they were brand loyal to it here in Texas. Well, then people like me came around. We go to a Mexican restaurant. What is this? It's Modelo. I'm going to try it. I liked it. And they were just adding more to that demographic, to that purchasing group. They're adding more to that purchasing group. So they expanded while Bud Light kind of retracted. And there'll be a day where they will also see that decline, because there's craft breweries coming out of Mexico. There's other products coming out of Mexico. Mezcal has blown up. So things always change. There's always huge changes within the beverage industry. And my boss, you're totally wrong about that. So I'm gonna have another part 2 to this, because I want to talk about the changes in the logistics and how these things move. But I'll do that in another video to keep this one short. Thank you guys for watching. Sorry for being gone so long. abs.taprm.com. Order some beer. Cheers.